doesn't want the final play of his Cowboys career to be
At
getting
center.
pancakes playing center.
Like Mac Jones.
What changed? That wasn't his final. First of all, it wasn't the final
I'm
play.
just saying the pancake part.
Exactly right.
What changes do the Cowboys need to make?
I mean, there's only one they really can make, guys. Yeah. And that's the coach. And I understand, but 25 wins the last 2 years. Look at what they did, and they lost Dak for part of the... I get all of that. And I am not saying Mike McCarthy is a terrible head coach. I am not even saying Mike McCarthy, it is his fault and his fault alone that once again their season ends in mortifying fashion. What I am saying is this. There is only 2 ways you can significantly change a football team in an offseason when you don't have a ton of cap space and you don't have great draft picks. And that is either change the quarterback or change the coach. They're not changing the quarterback.
Right.
So does anyone, even the people who think, no, he doesn't deserve, this is what people would say. He doesn't deserve to be fired. I'm not saying he deserves to be fired. What I am saying is to those people, can you envision the Dak McCarthy combo, it ending differently than it has the last 2 years? Probably around before it should have in somewhat embarrassing fashion. I can't. Brew, we've seen this story before. You know what it was called? Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton. It's a good coach. It's a fine quarterback.
Andy Dalton.
Make the playoffs every year. Well, I think that Marvin might be a little better than Mike and that Dak is better than Dalton, but still, team, good enough to make the playoffs, good enough that they never did together, but you thought they could win a playoff game, but you know they can't win the Super Bowl. And so I don't know if the Cowboys this offseason fired him and brought in Sean Payton, that could fundamentally change Dak's trajectory, at least possibly, and fundamentally change their chances. What does the rest of the NFC East hope they do? Nothing, right? What are the Eagles hoping they do? The Giants hoping they do? Nothing. And so that's the answer, but I don't think they'll do it.
Well, look, it's not wholly unprecedented. And I'm seeing people on TV say, he won 12 games the last 2 years. How in the world? Marty Schottenheimer used to win 12, 13 games a year.
For two different teams.
Like, he can't get us above that level, all right? And so Mark Jackson with the Golden State Warriors did a great job. They were winning 50 games. Sometimes once or twice got to the second round.
After a 14-2 season.
Yeah,
I think it was the Chargers.
And then the Golden State bring in Steve Kerr, and the rest is history. So you can fire a successful coach if you feel like he can't get you to the next level. But so I'm not mad at that, Nick. But what they need more than anything is a culture change. Mm-hmm. That's really, and the coach is not empowered enough, in any coach in Dallas, to bring about a culture change. Because right now their culture is that they're a laughing stock. They are the butt of all jokes. What was everybody waiting to happen, whether it was last weekend or it would have been this weekend? People were waiting. They're going to implode. They're going to self-destruct. They're going to bring their F game. That's what it was. Like, we are waiting because that's their culture, and the culture is set by Jerry Jones, the owner. Now, I get he's not going anywhere. He owns the team. He can do what he wants. But he canceled his radio interview today that he does every Tuesday, canceled it. You know what? He should cancel all of them next year.
Okay. Wow.
I'm telling Jerry, if you're listening, I'm saying what needs to happen. I'm speaking as a mature adult. You need to get off the radio every week. Stop doing the interviews outside of the locker room after every game, because he creates drama with his voice.
Can I ask you a question, Brew?
What he said.
Did you feel, but you said that Jerry creates all this, and I think that's true to a degree. But this team was a serious team when Jimmy was the head coach.
Yeah, because Jerry was in the background.
But it was also a serious team when Parcells was the head coach.
Well, they butted heads.
Right. But I guess my point is that you don't think that Jerry could stay being Jerry, and if they bring in Sean Payton, that it all of a sudden changes. I don't even know if Sean Payton's going to want to go into that type of circus atmosphere. Sean Payton's not going to want an owner or anyone meddling all the time. I mean, really, Jerry is the final voice, and he should be the final voice in the organization, but not necessarily in football stuff. And he has it, and that drama, what makes a great drama?
The highs and the lows.
Oh, yeah.
The A games and the F games.
What was your
I mean,
answer?
Well, you have a protagonist and an antagonist.
but that's what drama is. A and F.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster, and that's what the Cowboys are because of Jerry's drama. So obviously he's there, but just if he stopped talking so much,
You think the Cowboys
it would seem like, look, we're really okay now. Things are different. It's about football now. We are a football franchise. We're not about entertainment and all of that. That's what they need.
But
Get serious.
If Jerry Jones said, you know what, I was watching First Things First, and Chris Broussard, who's really marketed F game throughout that whole soliloquy,
it was really
he's like, what was everyone waiting for? The F game.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true. Truth hurts.
If he decided,
But losing hurts more, Jerry.
if he decided to step back, do you think the Cowboys would be more successful? If he played it like Robert Kraft, like I'm gonna do charity work, I'll pop up every once in a while to like be on the field, but I'm not going to be giving interviews.
I think it would send a message that this is about football. Let's get serious. Let's stop, being the entertainment and just worrying about making the franchise so valuable. It's already valuable.
To be
and
very
winning will
quick
make
here,
it more valuable.
I do think that would help. Like, we forget about it now, but the 6-week mini-series surrounding Odell Beckham Jr. was ridiculous and
Absolutely
unnecessary.
ridiculous.
Now, during that, they were winning games, didn't really seem to affect them. I don't think it impacted them in the playoff game at all, but that's a for instance.
To Jerry's defense, you also said it was a soap opera when it was Cooper Rush, and he said, no, we're still alive. It'd be great, and that actually happened.
No. That's absolutely true. The point that I was going to make, though, is the Cowboys have, if their season had just ended in a typical loss, if Dak hadn't thrown any picks, they hadn't run the hook and ladder attempted play, whatever they were trying to do.
High alert.
If they, no, they were not playing that. If they hadn't done that, they would still have an offseason of, Tony Pollard's an unrestricted free agent. Dalton Schultz is an unrestricted free agent. We cut Zeke, but we're still going to have $12 million of dead money for him. They still have hard decisions to make with no great way of improving the team.
Zeke said there was a report today he'll come back on less money.
Yeah, but
I want him back on less money.
Okay, but I don't want to get into the cat minutiae of it. That is easier said than done, actually, for the Cowboys. Cutting him, and it's $12 million on their cap for $0 paying him, and so they have real issues. Absent all of this, that's why I think they need a fundamental change, and I think Peyton's the only one that could do it.
Okay, we're going to turn our attention to the Buffalo Bills. Synth protest too much.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, but the teams with the best Super Bowl odds: the Bills, the Niners, and the Chiefs. For those keeping track at home,
3, 2, 1.
Exactly. The Niners and the Chiefs have been to, in the last 5 years, 8 conference championship games, 3 Super Bowls between them, and they both might make this one. And the Bills have been to 1 conference championship game. And in some shops, the Bills are co-favorites. So everyone's going to fall for the same okie doke. And people think right here I'm going to talk about Josh Allen, but I'm actually not. Because the Bills were the only team, Brew, with a defensive head coach of the final 8 teams remaining. And there are some real issues to that. It's like, are you going to be too conservative? They kind of were. Or is your offensive coordinator going to get hired away from you? Well, that happened last year and it hurt them. But the positive is supposed to be, we're going to be tough. We're going to step up in the biggest moments. We're going to be a defensive-minded team. So can we talk about how the last 3 seasons have ended in Buffalo and what Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow have done to them in those 3 games? 300 yards, 9 touchdowns, no picks, a passer rating that would be the highest in NFL history, and averaging more than 35 points per game. That's how they've lost. Because their defense, for a team that not only is a defensive-minded coach, but spends money on defense.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Since they drafted Josh Allen, they've had 9 picks in the top 90. 7 of those picks have gone to defensive linemen or running backs. And what did we see on Sunday? Can't run the ball with their running backs, and they can't rush the passer. So that is a fundamental problem. The next fundamental problem is a dollars problem, Brew. They have 10 guys that take up $150 million of their cap next year. Josh Allen's cap hit goes from 16 to 40. Diggs's goes from 11 to 20. The guy we just heard from, Vaughn, his goes from 5 to 20. There are only 5 teams in the league in a worse cap situation going into next year. They are $20 million over next year's cap before anything happens. And so it is not me being a hater or casting aspersions, Brew, to say there is no reason to believe next year's team will be better than this year's team. They will have to pare away some of the talent. And this year's team was not close to good enough. So Von can say all that, but the only known quantity they have coming back is a 34-year-old pass rusher coming off a torn ACL. As far as that's going to be different than what they had right
Hyde
there. Yeah, but Jordan Poyer is an unrestricted free agent. He could be on the way out. And so I'm not saying the window's closed. What I'm saying is they are taking a step backwards, and they weren't close enough this year.
I don't know that they're taking a step backwards. What they lose? 4 games total? What were they? 14-4, I guess, was their overall record. They're in the hunt. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Joe Burrow's right. When you're an elite quarterback, the window's your prime. All right? Aaron Rodgers hadn't been to a Super Bowl in a decade, but the window was still open. They just didn't walk through the window. But they will be back. They will be back. And as I said, defense was the problem. The defense can't get it done in the playoffs, is what we've seen.
That's my point.
Because in the regular season, they were second in the league in
and
points
last year
allowed.
they were first.
Right.
And then Mahomes
and
put
then in the
42
playoffs, they struggle. But Micah Hyde will be back. Obviously, Von Miller presumably will be back. Tre'Davious White I don't think he played well this year. So he only played 6 games. He came back from injury. I think if he's healthy,
but hold on,
helps.
real quick on that thought though, because we gotta do the math right. So Tre'Davious White didn't look like Tre'Davious White.
Right.
Why? Because he was coming off a late season torn ACL. But Von Miller will be back and fix everything. Von Miller will be coming off a late season torn ACL.
I don't know that he fixes everything. But look, what they need to do is strengthen the offensive line. That offensive line was bottom 10 in the league. If you strengthen the offensive line, you could have a run game, and so everything isn't on Josh Allen's shoulders.
But, okay, they had their worst game of the year by a mile. They looked like they were not in the Bengals class.
Right.
And they are a team that, again, when we talk about how they need to improve, there are certain teams in a position coming off season to improve. You have extra draft picks, you have cap space. The Bills don't have extra draft picks. They don't have a good draft pick as far as it's, I think, going to be 27th. And their cap space is negative. They are already over next year's cap without adding a person. So when we're talking about teams taking a leap or teams taking a step back, the Bills were positioned for this being their 3-year run. Then you take a small step back, then you make a run again. Their 3-year run came and went, and they have nothing to show for it. It's a real big
teams go. Tom Brady went a decade without winning the Super Bowl.
We were always out there.
I'm just saying, no way you should write Buffalo off.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
I'm certainly not writing them in.
Oh, speaking of, we're about a half hour away from talking about the Patriots and Bill O'Brien, but right now we're going to stay in Buffalo. Stefon Diggs criticized for asking Josh Allen to play better. Took to Twitter to defend his competitiveness. Want me to be okay with losing? I'm not. Want me to be okay with our level of play when it's not up to the standard? No, thank you. It's easy to criticize my reaction more than the results. Stefon, I don't know if you caught the show yesterday. We criticized the results.
Yeah, I don't get that last tweet.
Oh, I do.
Criticize my reaction rather than results.
Yeah, he's saying it's easier to criticize me rather than criticize everyone for the reason we lost, which wasn't me. That's what he's saying.
Look, I think overall they'll be fine, but I would have rathered him come out and been like, look, Josh and I go at it like this all the time. That's my guy. I'm still with him. Yeah, but in practice and stuff like that, you may.
We don't.
In practice and stuff, they probably do get on each other.
It's just dimes and awesome touches.
I mean, I would have liked to have seen something where he kind of squashes this notion that there's a beef.
But what if he didn't? Because there is. What if he's frustrated?
Man, this does happen.
Okay, he's gone 5
guys
games
yelling at each other. And people tried to make a big deal out of Bieniemy and Mahomes going at it. It was nothing. This is typically nothing.
Okay, you know what I think? I think we saw the canary in the coal mine for an emotionally immature team 3 months ago, and I was laughed at.
You weren't laughed at.
I was. You know what? Daniel Negreanu criticized me for this. Yeah. When your offensive coordinator can't keep his cool
I'm not mad
after a mid-season, regular season loss.
It was a bad game, though.
We then expect Stefon Diggs, who's in the cauldron, to keep his cool after a mortifying playoff defeat? I don't. You got a 40-something-year-old grown man wearing a visor and with highlighters and khakis breaking stuff. Yeah, Stefon Diggs is going to what? What's the problem?
Was that a visor?
Okay, I'm not sure what his head wears. Point remains.
Dorsey would argue he's in the closet,
And
too.
so this emotionally immature team has been
a great take.
It's an emotionally immature team, and their leader Josh Allen is his play almost speaks to the immaturity of get it all back right now, take the kill shot. You know what I mean? They are a team that hasn't won, doesn't know how to win, and doesn't know how to the highs and the lows and the ebbs and the flows of the season. And it percolated down from the box from Dorsey a few months ago. Now you have Diggs getting trolled by Eli Apple and not being able to do nothing about it.
It's a good take.
Rough times. Tough times.
Plus, he loves Sharpies so much. When he saw those Sharpies
that was
moving
rude.
around,
That was rude.
you're really upset.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.